Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, ZenSports. Enter code A to Z TN, ATOZ TN to earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. That is ZenSports. All right. We are back here on the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. This week is going to be a little bit different. Zach and I's schedules just couldn't meet up for a live show. We just, none of the nights this week really worked. And so we're going to just put out some segments this week talking about things that happened throughout the week. And that's going to be the podcast this week. I'll throw up at least one of these on the actual podcast feed, the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed. But yeah, so it's gonna be a little different this week, but that's all right. Zach, what's up, man?
Yeah, I mean it's January, so while there was a lot of news this week, it's not like we're in the middle of the college football season, though. I know Alabama fans would tell you that this is the middle of the college football season, the way they're reacting to all their players leaving. But they're getting a few guys too. It's hard to feel bad for those guys at this point, though.
Yeah, I think something we might want to talk about this week. That's not what this segment is going to be about, but something we might want to talk about is the whole thing that's gone down with Barrett Sallee from CBS Sports and his whole take of just and a whole bunch of other people too. That's the system is broken. We have to change it. This that all the whole. I mean, that's an entire thing. The system is stupid. But the system is not suddenly stupid because of Alabama. That's what pisses me off. That again, different segment for a different day. But today, we're going to talk about a bunch of really good news that came in for Tennessee over the weekend. Everybody in Knoxville was socked in with snow last week, including myself. Got like 10 inches of snow at the house. It was unbelievable. It's been an absolute nightmare. I still know people that haven't been able to leave their house since last Sunday. It's absolutely ridiculous. But despite that, and it being incredibly bitterly cold, down to negative temperatures here, they still had, I guess it wasn't officially Junior Day on Saturday with Tennessee, but had recruits in for the Alabama game. Tennessee went and absolutely waxed Alabama. It was a ton of fun. I went to the game. I was one of the lucky few that was able to leave and go. And I mean, it was packed, but yeah, got to leave and go to that game. It was amazing. Saw the recruits. Heupel was there. It was a ton of fun. A small set of people chanted George MacIntyre's name, and let's start there. George MacIntyre was there, 5-star QB from Brentwood Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. And as I said, there were some people that were chanting. It was like, we want GMAC or something like that at the game. He was there with Heupel. There were pictures of it, the whole deal. And his announcement was today, and he chose the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a big, big, big pickup because not only is he a 5-star, but he's from the state of Tennessee. Then he released this unbelievable video where he talked about how he's been, a Tennessee fan his entire life, and it's so good. But yeah, let's start there. What do you think of that, Zach?
First off, I think these Tennessee basketball games in January are becoming like these huge events, not just because of the basketball program and how good they've been in recent years, but the fact that at some point in January, a really talented recruit, usually a quarterback, is going to be in town for those games. We saw it with Nico in an Arkansas game back in 2022, before he committed and they chanted his name. You got it for George MacIntyre this weekend. The difference this time around, though, is that Nico hadn't really made his decision yet at that point. McIntyre knew what he was doing. He told VolQuest, he committed to Josh Heupel before this weekend, basically, and waited until Monday today to make it official so he could make his announcement. So it's kind of like a celebration weekend, really, for George MacIntyre. And, what a job by Josh Heupel and his staff to go all in on McIntyre 7-8 months ago, really, just kind of zeroing in on him as their guy, building that relationship, beating out LSU and Alabama. LSU had, went after Bryce Underwood, but they were still recruiting McIntyre pretty heavily, but I think that's probably why they didn't get further down the road. Obviously, they wanted Underwood. It worked out, but if they don't get Underwood, they're probably not getting McIntyre either. He appreciated the way Tennessee approached his recruitment. Alabama was a threat. I mean, with Nick Saban there, they were always in this. It was trending towards Tennessee. I think Nick Saban retiring. I don't think that's not why George MacIntyre committed to Tennessee today. It was trending that way anyway. But I think that was kind of like that 3-pointer you hit at the end of the game when you're up by 2 that kind of clinches the game, puts it out of the reach. You're probably going to win, but that just seals the deal, really. So that kind of made it almost anticlimactic today because we all kind of knew that he was going to pick Tennessee. I think the really interesting thing about the whole situation is he didn't even give Kalen DeBoer at Alabama a chance. I mean, they re-offered him down there, kind of said they wanted him. He didn't do the whole Ty Simpson sympathy tour like Simpson did with Tennessee when Heupel was hired back in 2021 and kind of lead Tennessee on when everybody, when he knew pretty much it was going to be Alabama that entire time. He didn't do any of that. He just kind of was like, no, I'm ready to make my choice. I don't need to go to Tuscaloosa and visit the new coach, new coaching staff. Not really even going to give them a chance. That's just how good of a job Heupel and Joey Hosley, this offensive staff, did in this recruitment. Number 2 quarterback in the country, top 10 overall player. As a guy that really being an in-state guy feels like you had to get if you're going to be like the flagship program that you're supposed to be in this state from Memphis to Knoxville, kind of rounding these guys up. That was a guy that you had to get. And it's really going to set the tone for this 2025 class. It's setting up. It could be a historically good class for Tennessee.
I mean, that was one of the biggest things with this is that this was just a guy, as you said, you had to get. Like, this was a non-negotiable quarterback guru coach with an unbelievable high-flying offense. In-state kid. Now we know from this video and more context around McIntyre that he's been a Tennessee fan, and just all of these elements all together, like, this is one that if you lost out here, especially to Alabama, when you're trying to close the talent gap, when that's the thing standing in between you and truly competing for championships right now, it's devastating. And on the flip side, picking him up is incredible. Like, truly, it's so good because I saw people tweeting today and saying the last time Tennessee had a Tennessean, I guess, leading its offense was 1992. I didn't confirm that. But like that's how kind of rarely this rolls around with not only a kid from Tennessee, but a kid from Tennessee that's uber talented, number 2 quarterback in America, 5-star on all these services. It really just all the way around. It's one of the best things that has happened in Heupel's tenure here, on top of the Nico commitment and the 11-2 season and all of these things that he's done so far. This is truly, it's a feather in the cap, no doubt about that. And it's great, even if it was kind of this anticlimactic. Oh yeah, I mean we're pretty sure he's going to pick Tennessee. It's still don't undersell how big this is. Seriously, it's massive.
I don't know if this is accurate. It just kind of off the top of my head here, but do you know who the last quarterback from in the state of Tennessee that the Vols signed was? I'm pretty sure this is correct. It's kind of a trick question in a way, I guess, though.
Just period from the state of Tennessee?
Well, he's a 4-star recruit.
I'd have to look back through. There were so many, so many.
I'm pretty sure it was Jawan Jennings, who was one of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the country when he signed, right?
You forget that.
Yeah.
That he came in. That's true. Because I mean, I was back then, that's when I was still in media and I was going to practices. And I remember that being a whole talking point, as quarterback, wide receiver,
safety.
Blah, blah, blah.
Safety was on the
yep.
possibilities too.
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, we would have to confirm that. But no, that if that is the case, that's awesome. But I mean, on top of that, I wanted to find, because I think on 247 you can look back at all-time highest rated commits, and yeah, all-time recruits right here. And I would bet that McIntyre is up there.
He's probably not finished. He's still going to go through this summer stuff and his high school season. They will reevaluate his ranking a couple of times before it's all said and done. Before he'll follow the lead of kind of like the standard that you have to do as a quarterback now is you show up for those bowl game practices in December. Like it's almost like expected that that's what you do. Maclntyre did it, Nico did it. Assume McIntyre, especially given what a highly touted recruit he is, will be in that same boat.
He is the number 14 all-time recruit to ever commit to Tennessee.
Who's number one? Is it like Eric Berry or something?
You know who it is, and you're gonna be like, oh God, when I say it. Bryce Brown.
Oh yeah. Yes. Oh God.
Yep. Yeah, did he ever really commit to Tennessee? Not quite. But yes, Eric Berry's number 2, then Nico's number 3. So Nico's the number 1 quarterback. Quarterback wise, he's the number 2 highest rated quarterback to ever commit to Tennessee since these rankings began.
Crumpton was actually pretty high up on that list, wasn't he?
Yes, he was definitely highly rated. Yeah, I mean, like in here, according to 247, he was just unrated on 247, class of 2005.
That's probably because 24/7 is a little bit newer for some of that stuff. So
yeah, he was a little early.
Speaking of highly rated recruits, I mean, what a 3-year run for Josh Heupel to land Nico. Well, to land Nico, a 5-star on 3's number 1 player. Maclntyre, really underrated 4-star. And I know, you might roll your eyes that we're just saying that because he's a Tennessee commit. And obviously we pay more attention to him because of that, but he's so competitive. The fact that he came here knowing that Nico was here, knowing that McIntyre, there was a good chance that would be their 2025 guy. I mean, that was no secret that they were going after McIntyre. It's not like this caught Maclntyre off guard. I mean, this is something he probably expected and knew was coming and was okay with that. So the competitiveness is off the charts because he could have went to other programs and been in a he'll definitely see the field quicker situation for sure. You land him and then McIntyre here just back to back to back like that. There's no questioning Josh Heupel when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks at this point. There's just not. And developing them too. We saw what we did with Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton wasn't the Heisman guy, but I think Joe Milton you probably got the most out of Joe Milton at the collegiate level that you're going to get. He went through all these seasons at Michigan, his first couple of starts at Tennessee, never really put it all together. And there still feels like he never truly put it all together in some sense, but at the same time, he quarterbacked a 9-4 team in the SEC, something that hasn't been done at Tennessee very much these last 15 or 20 years. So no, he wasn't the Heisman guy. Not every guy's going to be. I mean, I think you forget that, yes, you develop these guys, but they still have to be talented. They still have to get it. There's so many variables that go into being a good quarterback. It's why it's so hard for NFL teams to find one. There aren't that many out there that can lead a team to a championship. It's why Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC Championship every single year because there aren't that many guys in the AFC that can get it done. There's like 2 or 3, it seems like. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, those are the same guys that are kind of always in the mix. So the fact that Heupel develops these guys and gets them on campus, I mean, if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to feel really good for a really long time that there's going to be a stud at quarterback back there.
100%. I mean, that feeling of security, as long as you can hang on to everybody, that security of you're not going to have a lapse at the quarterback position. I mean, just unequivocally the most important position on the football field, period. If you have a transcendent quarterback, you have a chance, period. It's amazing to have an incredible defense, but it's such a team effort. It's amazing to have an incredible offensive line, but that's such a team effort. And there's a lot of variables there. But when you got a quarterback, the dude that touches the ball on every single offensive snap, more or less, like I said, you have a chance. And it's huge. Again, you don't understate how massive this is. But on top of that, let's not forget in terms of recruiting quarterbacks, the last quarterback that Heupel sent to the NFL Hendon Hooker, leader of an 11-2 season for Tennessee. He goes to the NFL and pulled off a feat that I would say is borderline miraculous. Didn't play a single snap, and yet his team made it all the way to the NFC Championship game for the first time in when was the last time they made the NFC
Barry
Championship
Sanders
game?
days back in like it's been a long.
Download today on the App Store at ZenSports.com, and your wallet will thank you later. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. That is Zen Sports. Go download it now.
There's gonna be a former ball on each sideline in these for each team in these final 4 games.
And the Detroit Lions specifically, they got, I believe they're the team. They might be the team in the NFL with the most Vols. They have 4. Manuel Mosley, it's Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Hendon Hooker, and Cam Sutton. Yeah, but no, it's exciting times there. And man, I saw this as a side note. I saw a thing today that said I was listening. I think I was listening to Basilio for a minute today over lunch, and he said that the Detroit Lions haven't won a road playoff game, which this one will be at San Francisco, since 1957. Mike Vrabel, who the Titans just fired, won 2. Just for context there. And man, you that made me go like, wow. I mean, that is what a tortured. Tennessee fans love to talk about how we are just the most tortured fan base. 1957 since a road playoff win. 30 years since a playoff win, period, and they finally beat that. But yeah, good Lord. Anyway, going back with everything with McIntyre to wrap this up. Incredible pickup. Couldn't be more excited. Don't understate how big it is. Otherwise, now this guy likely won't play with George MacIntyre. I don't know exactly what his eligibility is, but Tennessee got a pickup from an offensive lineman, which was so sorely needed. But not only was it an offensive lineman, but it was former 5-star Lance Hurd. Zalance Hurd? Zalance?
I think he just goes by Lance, but Lance. I guess either one.
Yeah, Lance Hurd. I believe that's his name on social media, on the social medias that he has. Lance Hurd from LSU, former 5-star. It's absolutely huge, and we'll talk about it right after I tell you about ZenSports. We got to pay the bills around here, of course. Well, will my graphics work? There they go. We've been talking about ZenSports all season long. It's the new sports betting app exclusively in Tennessee, and we have more big news. Now, when you sign up for a ZenSports account, you will receive up to $1,000 no danger first wager. When you place your first bet in ZenSports, you can be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000 maximum if the bet loses. But there's even more good news. ZenSports is rolling out its VIP rewards program. VIP rewards will allow top-tier customers to earn more bonuses, comps, and perks. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your ZenSports play qualifies for VIP consideration, check out the program at zensports.com/VIP. No other sportsbook will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer service and faster withdrawals like ZenSports. What are you waiting for? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. ZenSports betting just got better. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. ZenSports. Download it. Go check them out. Great sponsor. Lance Hurd. We waited all of this time with this weird wait. He announces he's transferring from LSU. There's this initial rumble of like, okay, Tennessee's in the mix. Here we go. He comes, he visits. People were kind of discouraged by the visit because it was like, oh, he only came for 6 hours or something. And, everybody thought that maybe that was a little bit of a flop there. But then Tennessee stays in the mix. And then it kind of becomes, I think Tennessee might have locked this kid down, but he's not making an announcement. And that dragged on for 2 full weeks, maybe longer, where it was just this limbo of like, yeah, we're pretty sure he's coming, but there's been no announcement. And finally, over the weekend, was it Sunday? Was it yesterday?
And it might have been Saturday, I think.
Maybe Saturday. But well, I guess the news came out first that his name was in the UT directory, which
Mhm.
I mean that's kind of a giveaway. That
That's what it
realistically
was.
that was enough to say that he's coming to Tennessee. But then he makes the actual announcement on his social media, posts a picture of, Photoshop of him in a Tennessee uniform, says committed to Tennessee. This kind of like with George MacIntyre. I mean, is it as big as this McIntyre commitment? Probably not. But in terms of what Tennessee needs right now, immediate needs, it's so huge. You needed this kid so badly, and not. I mean, you needed an offensive lineman, period. But you went out, you got yourself a 5-star. This is really huge. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely huge. A guy you had to get. He played in all 13 games for LSU. Played in the bowl game. I think he started a game as a true freshman, so he's legit. Just seeing the field as a true freshman offensive lineman is a pretty big deal. That doesn't always happen, even for highly touted guys. So he can play in the SEC. Feels the instant need left by Gerald Mincey. Probably going to play left tackle, moving John Campbell to right tackle. Solidifies that offensive line. Looks like you're probably going to roll with a Jackson Lampley, who also announced his return, or Andres Karich or Vyson Lane or something, that left guard spot. And that's manageable. I feel like you can get by there and figure something out, but you had to figure out these tackle positions. So finally getting hurt in, especially after this, like kind of like you said, this back and forth, not really sure what's happening. We think he's coming. We've seen Tennessee lose so many of those in the past, so many times where it just hasn't worked out. And it's been like, well, you finished second or you gave it a good run. You got to land those guys to compete for a championship like Tennessee wants to in 2024. So to have that box kind of checked just kind of makes everything else this offseason, you can kind of exhale when it comes to the offensive line. As long as everybody stays healthy, feels like they're probably going to be okay there. And speaking of Mincey, he was talking some trash or something on social media. Fans, I mean, if you're Mincey, why even get involved with that? It's business. I get it. Like, you came from Florida, transferred, from Florida to Tennessee, went to Kentucky, searching for a paycheck. Whatever you got to do, man. Like, that's just the era we're in. So why are you paying attention to social media? And then he quoted his tweet with November 2nd, basically like circling the day that Kentucky comes to Tennessee. We know he knows how that's worked out for Kentucky in the past. I don't know what he's going to expect to be different. So, and what's his beef with Tennessee? I mean, they could have said, he announced his return in December. He's deleted the tweet, and he announced a new deal with the Vol Club. And, they were going to pay him to come back. It's not like they pushed him out the door and said, no, we don't want you here anymore. Like, there were rumors that maybe he was hard to deal with at times and this and that, but they were going to stick with him. I mean, you can't be mad at the coaching staff or anybody at Tennessee. They're not going to bend over backwards for, just any offensive lineman. You can't do that. You can't set that precedent, really. I mean, that's a tough spot to kind of put your team in if you do that. But they were going to bring him back, and he agreed to it. And then that transfer rule got passed, and he decided he wanted to test the open market and get a little more. Again, I get it. Like, if that's business, you went to Florida, you went to Tennessee, you went to Kentucky, you're not really loyal to any of these places, right? Like, you're just looking for the next check. That's pretty obvious. So I don't see why there's any hard feelings going the other way from him.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I had any sort of, comment on was that he came out and he said, what, Tennessee fans, I thought some of these comments were, a little mean or something. And then he said, business is business. And I went, I mean, what'd you think was going to happen? You went to Kentucky. Like, you didn't go to USC. You didn't go to Oregon. You went freaking 2 hours up I-75 to one of Tennessee's biggest rivals in every single sport. Like, this is not surprising at all. And then on top of the situation that you're saying, where it was kind of expected that he was coming back and then suddenly he's transferring out. And so there's no love lost there from Tennessee fans. And so business is business. Yeah, for Tennessee fans commenting on, I don't like tweeting at players or anything like that. But at the same time, business is business. It goes both ways. Like, what did you expect? The Tennessee fans were going to be like, Yeah, cool. Good luck at one of our biggest, most bitterly hated rivals. I don't know. I mean, I guess in football it's not really that big of a rivalry, but in everything else, like it is pretty hotly contested. So that whole situation's ridiculous. But to go back to Lance Hurd, so big, and it really rounds out what you were looking for with this offense. You submit the tackle spots, and then you have the transfer wide receiver. You have Mike Matthews coming in. You have Brew McCoy coming back. You have your running back position set with Dylan Sampson. And now this offense with Nico at the helm, with actual protection in front of him, you're looking and you're going, this is a nice setup. Like, this is really where you could have something special this coming year. And with some serious protection in front of him, you saw what Nico can do with pretty low level protection in front of him in that game against Iowa, which was supposedly, Iowa with the defense and the blah, blah, blah. There was so much buildup before that bowl game, and he kind of roasted them. And so now that's so exciting. It really is great.
It's not the only thing that's exciting either about this team. It's not just the offensive side of the ball; it's the defensive side of the ball too. You kind of get a surprise commit from the Stanford defensive lineman Jackson Moy, interior defensive lineman, 300-pound guy, graded out as one of their second best defensive lineman last season according to Pro Football Focus. I mean, that defensive line is looking pretty nasty for next season for Tennessee. You're bringing a lot of guys back. Omar Norman Lott, Omari Thomas, Bryson Eason, David Hobbs, who's going to have another year of experience. You've got Tyree West, who's probably going to play more of that Tyler Barron role, but he showed out in the bowl game and had a really good game against Iowa. Kind of hit, he said it was his coming out party. And then James Pierce, obviously just a monster. There was an AFC executive that told ESPN's Matt Miller this week that he'd probably be the top defensive player taken in this year's draft. Like, he's that good of a player. So just think about how much he's going to grow going into what will definitely be his final season at Tennessee, unfortunately. Joshua Josephs, Caleb Herring with another year of experience, who could also be a freak stud pass rusher. And then Jordan Ross coming in. Who knows? You might get something out of him as a true freshman. He's a 5-star guy, really highly rated. Keenan Peely coming back there and with the linebackers. If the secondary can get figured out and you added a couple of pieces there, and you're going to have to play some young guys now because you've pretty much flipped that whole unit over. So you're expecting big things out of them this year. You have to get big things, or Tim Banks and Willie Martinez, who appears that he is coming back again for another season. Some serious questions. You can't go into year 4 and still have these same secondary issues. You've got some talented guys. They put it all together. I mean, Tennessee has the whole package there. 12-team playoff, get in the dance. You've got a chance.
Yeah, the talent, there's really no denying. You could shore up the defensive backs. You could add, a flashy skill guy on offense or something. But as is right now, this is a team that the expectation should be this 12-team playoff. Like, it's the goal. It's the expectation. I mean, that's a 10-2 season. I think that's what it'll take to get into that top 12. When you finished this last time, finished that season ranked 6th, wasn't it? Right, you're right behind Alabama.
Should have been 5th. Should have been ahead of Alabama.
Well, yeah, and now you do run, I guess, the risk, quote unquote, of going 10-2, and you would play in the SEC championship game, so you have an opportunity for an additional loss there, but. Like that's what would have happened last season. You would have made the SEC championship game and played Georgia and yada yada. Anyway, it's really great. I love every bit of this. I love that they're kind of building a like Polynesian pipeline with Nico, Jackson Moy. I like that a lot. And I guess Keenan Peely too, right?
Yeah.
So
who's going to be
exciting
like his
times.
9th year of college football or something next year, something insane.
Yes, he is up there because there was that kid at Miami that he's on year 9. Legitimately,
really
that's
is
like
year
not
9.
a joke.
I think Keenan Peely is legitimately year 7 is what his is.
Yes, I think so. And then I guess the final cherry on top, there was actually the Polynesian Bowl which is high school recruits playing in the Polynesian Bowl, and the MVP for the Polynesian Bowl was Mike Matthews, Tennessee commit, the wide receiver. I mean, he looks so dynamic, and I mean, I think that's a guy you got to get that dude in the football game this coming season. I think you have a talent there that you can utilize immediately. Really exciting athleticism that he has. So I would say between all of that and the 20-point win over Alabama, Dalton Connect playing out of his mind, pretty good week for Tennessee and a pretty terrible week for Alabama, which is always a good thing. Even if great things don't happen for Tennessee, when it's a bad week for Alabama, that's a good thing for Tennessee.
And possibly a bad week for Florida. Well, maybe good depending on how you look at it. They're under NCAA investigation because of the Jaden Rashada stuff that we all kind of knew was going to come to fruition at some point. So they might be looking to pull a Jeremy Pruitt with Billy Napier down there.
No kidding. How do you embarrassingly lose a recruit and then that is what gets investigated? Like, at least get investigated for a kid that you got. Like, come on. Be Hugh Freeze and like,
I mean, it is Jeremy
win season.
Like, I mean, Marius Mims was in that report for Tennessee. It's on a much smaller scale, but that's true. A guy that you threw some money at and still ended up going to Georgia. Ugh. I don't know. They might be able to get Napier's buyout. He's got a pretty expensive buyout, even if he makes it through this season. But he's got the same record as Derek Dooley had through Dooley's first 2 seasons at Tennessee. I don't think it's gonna end up well for that guy.
I say it. I mean, this is going to be perpetually true, even if they do fire him before this season and hire somebody new. This is the time where you not only that you jump on Florida. I mean, it's a given that this is the time that you jump.
You have to.
Now, when you see the talent that's coming in right now, it's also the time where you jump on Alabama with Saban gone. This is a real opportunistic time for Tennessee.
It's a pivotal season.
Serious. Yes. This is big. I mean, if you can clear out Florida and Alabama for another season like you did in year 2 for Josh Heupel, and then Georgia's the main thing standing in your way. That's the deal. I mean, that's what you're hoping for if you're a Tennessee fan. Bring it down to 1 game against the best team in America, and it's all there. It's there for this team.
And one of the best things about it going into this offseason is Tennessee's not really getting a lot of hype. Not as much as I thought they would with Nico at quarterback. And I think that bodes well for Tennessee. I think they feed it. We saw it in 2022. That was when they were at their best. They weren't quite as good after they reached number 1 in the playoffs. Still good, but they lost lost to Georgia. Obviously, that was going to be a tough game no matter what. Lost to South Carolina, kind of rebounded there to finish the season strong. But I think this team plays at their best when their backs are against the wall. That's kind of the Heupel mentality. So I think that's it's going to bode well for this team early in the season.
I hope so.
It's huge because you got a big road game against Oklahoma early in the year. And that's going to be an emotional one for Josh Heupel, no matter what.
Yep. Man, I'm already getting nervous.
It's only January.
Oh boy. Yeah.
We got a NCAA tournament to get through.
Yeah, and I'm already nervous about that with the way that the team is playing right now. And that's going to be part of another segment later this week. I mean, Dalton Connect, just doing it big right now. We'll talk about all of that coming up when Zach and I's schedules align again a little later this week. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, thanks so much for listening. Subscribe to the A to Z Sports Nashville YouTube channel, and then you won't miss our videos and live shows when we drop them. Hit that notification bell, of course. That's how you get notified when we put them up. But that is pretty much it for this. Thanks again for listening. We will talk to y'all